What is up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of What's the Word, your home for all things sports. I'm your host, Sam Casillas, and before we get into today's episode, I just want to say thank you to everyone for your tremendous support. I mean, just 3 episodes in already, and I'm already seeing the growth across all platforms, so I'm definitely feeling the love. I do appreciate everyone for tuning in, for reposting, for interacting with this video in any way. As always, feel free to drop a comment if there's anything you guys want me to cover in particular. But with that being said, let's dive right into today's episode. Let's talk some hoops, guys. NBA second half of the season is here, and a lot is still up for grabs in both conferences, more so the West, so that's what I'm going to dive into today. But let's talk about All-Star Weekend. The East coming away with a record-setting win. All my old heads, you might want to cover your ears, but the East able to walk away with the win 211-186. Yes, you heard that right. 200 points scored in an NBA game. Regardless of All-Star Weekend, 200 points is 200 points. I mean, Mr. Dame Dollar walking away with All-Star Game MVP. He had himself quite a weekend. All-Star Game MVP, 3-point contest winner, and this was his back-to-back MVP. Back-to-back years he's won MVP. This time his first year with the Eastern Conference. So, I mean, he did it last year with Portland in the West, and his first year with Milwaukee in the East. He wins it back-to-back. So, huge shout-out to Mr. Dame Dollar. He had himself a weekend. He put on a show in the All-Star Game in the three-point contest. But one thing I really want to talk about, man, let's talk about this lack of defense and what Commissioner Adam Silver can do to sort of revamp this All-Star Game. I mean, what can he do to make this more competitive? I know it's supposed to be a chill weekend. I know the guys are out there having fun. They don't want to get hurt. Super low stakes. But, I mean, they were looking like me out there when I play pickup. No type of defense, only offense. They were having fun out there, and I respect it. I mean, like I said, it's a low-stakes weekend, but I feel like there's got to be something that needs to be done to just up the stakes and sort of revamp All-Star Weekend. I think taking it back to that 2023 format last year was a good move. They made it so that once the fourth quarter hit, there was a target score of 24 points. So whoever hit that 24-point limit first won the game. So that fourth quarter, just upping the stakes alone in that fourth quarter, up the stakes of the entire game. It made it a little bit more meaningful, a little bit more competitive. So I think that's just what the All-Star Game needs. I mean, it was just the right amount of competitiveness, and I think if Adam Silver wants to, get these guys out there playing a little hard but still, relaxed enough to enjoy All-Star Weekend, I think that is the solution right there. Sticking with that, 24-point format win at the end. And I think that's just a big way these guys are going to, still want to play, make it exciting for the fans, and just get a little bit of defense out there. I mean, like I said, it's super low stakes. We don't want anyone getting hurt, but I think that's what everyone needs. Everyone wants to see is just a little bit more, enthusiasm, a little bit more competitiveness, and I think that is the solution right there. Just sticking with that format. We know Adam Silver, he's a great commissioner. All the players love him, the coaches love him, and this is a guy who really loves to experiment. I think he's one of the better commissioners in all of sports because he really listens to his players, but this is someone who's really, really trying to, do better things and, do different things. We saw it earlier in the season with the inaugural in-season tournament. That was something that Adam Silver decided to do to spice up, those regular season games to make them a little bit more meaningful. So he knows just exactly what the fans want to see. And, there's been a lot of criticism. There's been a lot of noise from that All-Star Game, that All-Star Weekend. So I think Adam Silver will definitely go back to the drawing board. I'm excited to see what he can cook up for next year's All-Star Game, but I think, if they really want to get that back to that competitive level, doing something like a score limit in the fourth quarter is the answer. But I mean, I'm excited to see how he's going to revamp All-Star Weekend, and I'm looking forward to it next year. But let's talk about the event that stole the show. Sabrina Ionescu versus Stephen Curry, 3-point contest. And I mean, those two put on a show. Let me just say right off the bat, Sabrina Ionescu is a straight hooper. I mean, she came out swinging. She started off 7 for 7, and mind you, she was shooting from the NBA line. She went heads up against Steph, and she said, no, I'm going to make this as equal as possible. I'm going to shoot from the three-point line in NBA range, but only thing that was different was that she was using a WNBA ball. So really a level playing field, and let me just say, she was sizzling. She was scorching hot as soon as she started 7 for 7, like I mentioned, and it was kind of funny seeing Steph's reaction as he saw those first 7 go in. His eyes kind of got a little bit wide. He's like, okay, let me lock in really quick. And I mean, it was one for the ages. I mean, those two are two tremendous shooters. Steph Curry, one of the greatest shooter in basketball, and Sabrina gave him a run for his money. So that was something that was really exciting. And I mean, that's something, like I said, Adam Silver always trying something new, and that was one of the things he tried. So I'm curious to see if he wants to, keep that in the All-Star Game, in All-Star Weekend. It's surely going to be a fun thing regardless if Sabrina and Steph want to do it again. But I'm curious to see how, if if he incorporates, Caitlin Clark, one of the biggest faces in women's basketball right now. She's actually heading to the WNBA next year. So I would be curious to see if Adam Silver would maybe want to incorporate, Caitlin Clark, Sabrina Ionescu, and Steph Curry and another shooter. That would be awesome. Maybe a little 2v2 showdown. But I mean, in my opinion, that was the highlight of the weekend. It was just super fun event. It was a new thing, and I think a lot of people kind of liked that new aspect of All-Star Weekend. So I'm excited to, see how the All-Star game keeps going. But like I said, I think Adam Silver does need to go back to the drawing board and just, really reevaluate what he wants to see in the All-Star game. The fans, they do want to see guys out there hustling, and they want to see the stars out. And I think the Stars definitely put on a show offensively this weekend or last weekend. But I think, a little bit more defense, a little bit more stakes couldn't hurt. So I think going back to that format is going to benefit the NBA and give the people what they want to see. So I'm excited to see how that looks going forward in the three-point contest, whether we add more female hoopers. But I'm excited to see what it looks like in the future. But All-Star Weekend, a lot of fun. That three-point contest was the highlight of the weekend. And I'm excited to see everything moving forward. But let's jump right into the next topic. So second half of the season is here. A lot of teams forced to make some moves and the race heating up in the West. But one thing I really want to talk about is Mr. Klay Thompson coming off the bench for Golden State. Yes, you heard that right. I mean, Mr. Four Rings Klay Thompson is coming off the bench. And let me just say, he had the best game of his season coming off the bench in that first game. Before that game, he was really struggling in his last 7. He was averaging just 13.3 points per game. So, I mean, super uncharacteristic from Klay Thompson. And coming off the bench in that first game, he finished with 35 points, and he knocked down 7 tray balls. So, 35 points, 7 tray balls coming off the bench for the first time since his rookie year. He put on a show, and a lot of people are starting to say, like, what does this mean for Klay Thompson? What is it going to look like going forward? And I think, for now, I think it's going to stay the same. I think he's going to, continue to come off the bench, and I think that's really just what he needed was, that little extra motivation because he knows he's still a tremendous athlete. He's a tremendous hooper. He's been through so much, but I mean, I think he just needed that fire relit under him. So I'm curious to see how long he's going to stay on the bench and how long Steve Kerr wants to keep him there, but really, the big question is, what is this going to look like for Klay Thompson going forward, his future with Golden State? I mean, before the season, let's backtrack a little bit. This was a guy who was offered a 2-year extension by Golden State, and he turned it down. It was a 2-year, $48 million extension, and, Klay Thompson felt like he was worth a little bit more than that, so he kind of wanted the opportunity to go out and prove it. He knew it was a big contract year, and he wanted to perform well, and it really just hasn't been going his way. I think Klay Thompson, he's still a tremendous player, but he has been shooting a career low from the floor and from beyond the arc, so very uncharacteristic. He's kind of been going through it a little bit, but I mean, this is a guy who wants to retire a Warrior, so that poses more of a question to the front office, and they have to make a decision. I mean, this is a splash brother. This is a 4-time NBA champion. This is a guy who scored 60 points on just 11 dribbles. So, I mean, this is a guy who is a hooper, but at the end of the day, this is also a guy who has gone through an Achilles rupture, who's gone through an ACL tear, so he's had some bounce back to do. It has not been easy for him the last couple of years, but I think his fire is still there. This is a guy who loves Golden State. He wants to stay there. And he still brings a lot of value to that Golden State team. They got a young core now. I think he still brings that championship experience, and I think he is going to stay with Golden State for at least a couple more years. I don't see them parting ways just yet with him, but I do expect him that if he does come back to, take a bit of a pay cut, and who knows, maybe he could still be coming off the bench, but I do expect him to come back with Golden State, and, time may be ticking on that dynasty, that big 3. I mean, Steph Curry is still playing at an elite level. Draymond Green is out there playing some good basketball. He's out there being a menace, doing Draymond Green things. So this big 3 is still intact, but I feel like the time is ticking on this dynasty. But I do see Klay Thompson, sticking around for 1 or 2 more years, but just taking a little bit more of a reduced role. I'm not ready to see him play anywhere else, and I know a lot of fans probably feel the same. But this year was a little bit uncharacteristic for Klay Thompson. There's still some time to pick it up, and I'm excited to see how he embraces this new role coming off of the bench, because this is a guy, he is a champion, he's a winner, and he's someone who's going to do whatever it takes to win. And the Warriors, the season hasn't really been going their way, currently in the 10th seed, so in the play-in still, but they know that they're a better team than that. So I think Klay Thompson knows that he still has his eyes on the prize. The goal is the same. And I think he'll do whatever it takes to get there. So if that means coming off the bench, if that means, taking less minutes, I think Klay is going to be all for it. But that really does pose the big question to the Warriors front office is how long are you going to let this play out? And, my opinion, I think, they do got to keep that dynasty together as long as they can because they still got some juice left in the tank. They're not done yet, and, they're still playing good basketball right now. So I think that Golden State is going to stick around for a few more years. But, Klay Thompson, you gotta do something for yourself. Struggling from the field, and if you want that big contract, if you want, what you think you're worth, you got to start putting on and taking advantage of your role. So I'm excited to see, just how Klay Thompson handles this stress and how he, kind of rises to the occasion because he is a tremendous hooper. So anything he can do to get back on the starting five or just get some more minutes or keep contributing, Klay Thompson will definitely handle business. So I'm excited to see how that situation plays out in the Bay Area. But that's going to lead me right into my next topic. Sticking in the Western Conference, I'm going to pose you all with this question: Was not making a move the right move for the Lakers? Now, let me kind of dive into that a little bit. So, a little bit of a quiet trade deadline for Los Angeles. There were some talks of D'Angelo Russell being thrown around. Even after the trade deadline, we saw that there were talks about LeBron possibly being dealt around. But the Lakers, they stuck with who they got. They actually added somebody. I think that addition of Spencer Dinwiddie was a tremendous addition. He's a guy off the bench who can score, he can play defense, he can rebound. So he's a great addition. But I think, keeping D'Angelo Russell was a huge move. And this might be a hot take. I know D'Lo has a lot of haters out there, but, D'Lo is one of those guys he's our offensive glue on the court. He brings out the best in Anthony Davis. When those two are on the floor running the pick and roll, the two-man game, Davis is looking at his best. So I think keeping D'Angelo really was a great move. He kind of beat the allegations a little bit. People were started calling him Deadline D'Lo. He had himself a good couple games right before that All-Star break, and I think that really, made it hard for Rob Pelinka to ignore how much value that D'Angelo Russell brings to the Lakers squad. And he does have flashes of inconsistency, but this year he's already made better strides than last year, so he's looking like a better player in my opinion. And I think keeping him in the purple and gold was a tremendous move. And not to mention, the Lakers are a team who've had to deal with a lot of injuries. They signed some guys in the offseason, Gabe Vincent, Cam Reddish, and even Jared Vanderbilt. He's undergone some injuries, and now LeBron is even nursing that ankle a little more. He tweaked it. He was out the other day against Golden State. So, this is a team who hasn't really gotten to see the floor as much as they want him to. So I think not making a move was the right move because you get those guys, Gabe Vincent, you get Cam Reddish, you get Jared Vanderbilt, and these guys haven't seen the floor and they haven't been on the floor together as much as the Lakers would like to see. So I think they really weren't able to assess how valuable these players were. So I think, once these players come back, they should be good to go within the next month or two. And I think, the Lakers are going to get back together and they're going to get that chemistry and they're going to get hot right at the right time. So I think, not making a move was the right move for the Lakers in those injuries. We've had some other guys had to, step up and log some great minutes. Rui Hachimura has been one. Jackson Hayes is logging some tremendous minutes. This is a guy who is a real high energy guy. He is a tremendous rebounder and, he has been playing some great ball, sprinkle in a little bit of Max Christie. And Max Christie's a guy, his stats aren't really as eye-popping on the stat sheet, but he is a real hustle guy. He is a tremendous defender and still on that rookie contract. So these are two guys who have shown some tremendous potential and they've shown great flashes. So I'm excited to see, how they continue to evolve with this new role, with these injuries on the Lakers squad. But they have been playing some great basketball. Those are just some guys to name a few. But I think that, keeping the guys together has been key for the Lakers. Another thing that's been huge for Los Angeles has been the availability of Anthony Davis. This is a guy who has had his fair share of injuries in the last couple years, but last year he was only able to play in 56 of the 82 games in the regular season, and at this point in the season he's already played 53. So the fact that he's been available, it's been everything for Los Angeles. He is out there playing basketball, he's out there running the offense, he's out there playing at a high level. The Lakers are better when he's on the floor, plain and simple. When we have Anthony Davis, we're looking like a championship caliber team, and no one defends the paint like him, averaging 2.5 blocks a game. He is a real paint beast out there. and he kind of dictates the flow of the game. He is a tremendous shooter. He's shooting 55% from the field this season. So, like I mentioned, that two-man game, he likes to work with D'Lo. He is just looking real automatic when he gets in that painted area. And when he starts shooting that mid-range jumper as well, Anthony Davis is not afraid to pull that trigger and make those defenders pay if they don't step up and put a hand in his face. So the fact that he's looking more and more comfortable shooting that mid-range jumper, it's a good sign for the Lakers. So if he can stay healthy, it is going to be tremendous for Los Angeles. And the Lakers are in a similar situation as they were in this time of the year last year. I mean, they're in that 9 seed, a play-in team right now. But, I mean, the Lakers control their own destiny, and they know that, they have goals. They want to avoid the play-in, because if the season were to end today, they would play Golden State in that first game of the play-in tournament. And, I mean, we know how those teams can flip the switch come playoffs. So, I mean, I think the Lakers do have what it takes to beat Golden State if it came down to it in the play-in. But, I mean, if you're Los Angeles, you would really just love to avoid all that, get some extra rest, not have to play those extra games, and ride that playoff. So, I mean, I think you'd want to just avoid that play-in. I think if you can heat up, if you're the Lakers, you're happy to get everybody back real soon. And I'm looking forward to see what they do with all them healthy, all them on the court, just building that chemistry. And I'm excited to see, the guys we brought on, Gabe Vincent, Cam Reddish, to play like how we expect them to play. So I think not making the move, Los Angeles, was the right move, and I'm excited to see, how they finish off this second half of the season, because it is a tight race in that Western Conference. And that's going to lead me into my next topic, is that Western Conference race is heating up, and my, oh my, is it close. I mean, the top 4 teams looking a little bit different than in past years. We got all of them within just 2 games of each other. So currently we got the Timberwolves sitting at first, then we got Oklahoma City, then Los Angeles Clippers, and then the Denver Nuggets. So like I said, all those teams within 2 games of each other. This race is hot. This race is as tight as can be. So I'm really excited to just see how everyone finishes off the season in the Western Conference. It's looking a little bit different than in the East right now. In the East, it's the Celtics sitting atop the standings, kind of with a comfortable lead. So they don't have too much to worry about. But I mean, Milwaukee looking like they're starting to figure things out on that side of the conference. So right now the Celtics are sitting comfortably, and it's not as tight of a race as it is in the Western Conference. But in my opinion, I think the team to watch this year in the Western Conference, as we get in the second half of the season, is going to be the Oklahoma City Thunder. I mean, this is a squad that is young, they're dangerous, they're led by MVP candidate Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and I mean, he is playing out of this world right now. He is, a guy who's averaging 31 points per game, 6 assists, and, sprinkle in 2 steals. That's the league's best, so he's active on both sides of the floor. And, this is a guy who is the definition of consistency. He goes in and day out, he puts up these numbers, and he was already somebody who was playing at an all-NBA level. He made that first-team all-NBA last season, but in this season, he has already grown tremendously. You didn't think that was possible for him. I mean, already making that first-team all-NBA season, you thought, the ceiling, he'd reached it. But, I mean, this guy's ceiling is, no one knows where it's at. He's a tremendous ball player, and he's still someone who is getting better. And he's only 25 years old, so this Thunder team is the second youngest team in the league on paper. I mean, their average age is 24 years old. So SGA is one of the older guys on the team, but it's really not clear just where his ceiling is. This is a guy who is doing a tremendous job of pulling his teammates together. Like I mentioned, that young squad, Shai being one of the older guys, but he's pulling those guys around, and they're looking like some seasoned vets out there. So shout out to SGA. I mean, he's been playing some good basketball, and I'm excited to see that Thunder team. I think they're really hungry. And yes, when it comes playoff, I think that experience does matter. But I think, at the end of the day, that hunger can just matter a little bit more. This is a team that hasn't won a playoff series since 2016. So that's a long time, and this team looks completely different than they were back then. But I'm excited to see, how they have that hunger, how they use that hunger, and how they have that fire under them come playoffs. I think, that experience does matter, but I think that hunger matters just a little bit more, and we know this Thunder team lacks no hunger. They're not lacking there, so I'm excited to see, how SGA pulls this team together, and, part of the Thunder's success has been that 1-2 combo with SGA. They got a tremendous big in Chet Holmgren, heating up in the Rookie of the Year race behind Victor Wembanyama. I mean, I think it is going to be a close race. Wemby is in a league of his own, but I think, Chet Holmgren is really playing some great basketball. He's not your average big man. He's one of those, newer bigs who can shoot the three, who can, play out, defend the wing, defend the perimeter. And this is kind of what we're seeing in today's NBA nowadays. Not those traditional paint beast bigs. We're getting guys who can, shoot the three. And I mean, the Oklahoma City Thunder, they run their offense through Chet Holmgren sometimes. I mean, this is a guy who's 7'1". He is a great ball handler, great shooter, and I mean, they set ball screens for him. He can shoot the three tremendously well. But I think, one of the most special aspects of Chet Holmgren's game is the fact that he kind of knows his role. I mean, this is a guy who was a number 2 overall pick in the draft 2 years ago. And I mean, he missed that first year with an ankle injury. He was out the entire season. He was sidelined. But I mean, this is a guy who was number 2 in the draft. So, you think you have that weight on your name taken so high in the draft. And he kind of knows that there's not that pressure on him per se, like on Wembanyama, to come out and be that scorer, to come out and be that guy who's averaging 20 plus a night. This guy, Chet Holmgren, is someone who really knows his role, and he knows that doesn't have to be him. So I think the fact that Chet is kind of playing with a little bit less pressure on his back, I think that's what's making him a better player, and I think that's really benefiting the Oklahoma City Thunder. His efficiency is tremendous. I mean, he knows just when to shoot the basketball. He takes those open looks. Like I said, without that pressure, he knows he doesn't have to score. So he's comfortable taking some looks from beyond the arc, from in the painted area. But, I mean, his efficiency is really what's eye-popping. There hasn't been a month this season where he's finished shooting below 50%. So that efficiency is there. He is taking the right shots at the right moments, and he's making those defenses pay. So he is putting on a show. That 1-2 combo of SGA and Chet Holmgren are going to be exciting to watch. I think, the league is in good hands with these young guys. This young team in the Oklahoma City Thunder, they are looking hungry. And, Chet is one of the best shot blockers in the league already. I mean, averaging 2.7 blocks a game, and he's gone up against some elite bigs in that Western Conference. So, I mean, he is surely on Rookie of the Year watch. I'm excited to see that race as, we get into the end of the season. But my team to watch is going to be the Oklahoma City Thunder. I think, that experience, that lack of experience, throw that out the window. This team is hungry, they are young, and they are exciting, and I can't wait to see how they finish off this season. And I do see them, making a deep playoff run, if not, winning a championship. I think they have what it takes to get the job done. But surely, I think, as this end of the season draws closer and closer, I think they're going to be the ones who walk out of it atop the 1 seed in the Western Conference. So that is going to be my team to watch, and I'm excited to see them as the season continues to go on. But that's going to do it for this episode. Do me a favor and drop a comment who you got winning the Eastern Conference, who you got winning the Western Conference, who do you guys want to see in the NBA championships this year, and what do you guys want to see in that All-Star game to make it a little bit more competitive? And that's going to do it for this episode. As always, I'm your host, Sam Casillas. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on What's the Word.